He's led us there, and lead follower, get out of the way, and I'm following this man.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Mayor Rawlings. I would like to welcome everyone to the U.S. Conference of Mayors annual meeting. Mayor Rawlings has been a great host, and I think we've all learned you only do things one way in Dallas. You do them big. So let's give Mayor Rawlings one more round of applause for his leadership. When I think of his city, I think of a global economic powerhouse. And one of the things that I'm going to be talking about a little bit later today at lunch is Cities 3.0. That's going to be the overarching theme of my year as a president, Cities 3.0. And I think Dallas represents that. Innovative, forward-thinking, nimble, and just plain smart leadership. So, Mayor, again, we want to thank you. And every mayor standing here today certainly represent an amazing team in this country who are committed to doing great work. I'd like to take this moment to thank Mayor Rawlings Blake, our vice president, for her leadership. We've made a commitment, and the mayor's made a commitment that we were going to do everything that we could to galvanize leaders from around the country, the best experts, to talk about some of the cutting-edge things that are going on in this country here in Dallas. So again, thank you for that. We have a number of past presidents with us. Will the past presidents raise their hands really quickly? Mayor Riley, Mayor Couch, Mayor Nutter. Let's give all of our past presidents a round of applause. They are great mentors and continue to let us know when we get off track. They are not bashful to get us back on track when we sway slightly. I also want to thank the U.S. Conference of Mayors staff. The staff of this U.S. Conference of Mayors are unbelievable, supportive folks. They make us look good. They help us be effective. And it's led by our leader, Tom Cochran. So if we can give him a round of applause. So cities are where the action is. And we are releasing our annual Metro Economies report today that shows that cities are back in a major way. Nearly 3/4 of all metro economies will have unemployment, very key, unemployment rates below 6%. This is something that we've been fighting for many years, and we finally are at a point where our unemployment rates will be under 6%. The economic engines of cities will drive the projected gross metropolitan product in 2015 by more than 3%, a rate not reached since 2004. This is what the Metro Economies report looks like. This is something that we do annually each year. After I bring up Mayor Rawlings Blake, I'm going to bring up Mayor Coleman from Columbus, who heads our task force on this. So, Mayor, I'm going to let you hold this. All right, thank you for that. Trying to get an assist from the mayor here. In 2015, by the end of 2015, 60% of all metro areas will have regained the jobs that we lost during our recession. This report will make it clear that the economic prosperity of the U.S. economy is directly linked to the economic growth and job-producing power of our nation's 363 metro areas. Mayors are optimistic after years of struggling through the recession that we have finally turned the corner. Continued investment in our city promises to be the game changer that this country needs to generate more jobs and fuel a full, robust recovery. What mayors understand better than any elected official at any level is that competition for investment is global and not local. 8 of the world's 40th highest producing economies are U.S. metro areas. Houston, Washington, Dallas, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Boston, Atlanta, and Miami all rank among the top 50 economies in the world. The gross metropolitan output of 33 metros topped $100 billion in 2013. Austin, Columbus, and my city are included in that. Yes, we as mayors are talking about potholes and garbage, but we are also talking about bigger, more global and complex issues. And during my presidency, we're going to be talking about a pro-growth agenda. A pro-growth agenda. There's 5 points of this pro-growth agenda. Number 1, I've talked to our mayors collectively, and they've given input on what we want our priorities to be in terms of a pro-growth agenda. Number 1, education. Every indicator in a city's health and economic vitality has a foundation of a good education system. Number two, infrastructure. We know that transportation, water, energy systems, that infrastructure is important. We've got to modernize it. It creates jobs. It's about connectivity. And we are going to be strong advocates, not only locally, statewide, but at the federal level. Number three, it is important for us mayors to understand that we want to mitigate the impact of climate change. Sustainability is really important. Solar, renewable energies, those are the things that we as mayors are going to be leading on day in and day out coming forward in this year. Number four, it is really important for our global economy that we focus on trade and boosting our exports. And lastly, we believe that all of our cities should be opportunities for everyone, and we're going to tackle income inequality in a real way. So those are going to be the 5 major areas that we focus on in this pro-growth agenda during my year as presidency. There are many, many mayors leading the way on these issues. One of the things that will take place in Dallas, when we think about innovations, each of these mayors have a number of things that they're doing that are very innovative. We want to share best practices, we want to beg, we want to borrow, we want to replicate what other mayors are doing in our cities. That is what we do collectively. Yes, it's competitive, but it's competitive in a very, very, very good way. At this point in time, I'd like to bring up a dear friend and have her talk a little bit about what she believes is important. I'll come back up. I would like Mayor Coleman to elaborate a little bit more on the metro economies. I'll close this out, and then we'll give you a chance to ask us some questions. So at this point in time, I'd like to bring up, I can't call her Mayor Rawlings Blake. She said, just call me SRB. Come on up.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kevin. And it is my honor to stand here as Vice President of the Conference of Mayors. It's a title that I wear with pride because I'm so proud of the work that mayors are doing across our country. I want to thank, I feel like we're having family reunion, Mayor Rawlings. I want to thank you for your hospitality. Dallas is a beautiful city, and you've certainly rolled out the red carpet for all of us. And on behalf of the mayors, I want to thank you and tell you we appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to, as Rawlings do, work hard and play hard. And dance. I know we have that in common, too, so I'm looking forward to a little bit of that as well. I stand before you, and I want you to know that we support President Johnson's pro-growth agenda for this year. You know, it reminded me of what President Obama said in his State of the Union, that this was a year of action, and that's what mayors are about. I get so frustrated, I'm sure many of you do, when we watch the news and we see that what it looks like on the horizon in Congress is more gridlock, more fights about ideology while cities suffer and while citizens suffer all over the country. Mayors are about action. We're about working across the aisle. We don't ask if you are R or D. We ask, what are you doing for your people? And we take those best ideas and we move them forward. So that's what we're about. I think it shows that mayors are leading the way with, when you take a look at the president's recent appointments to key positions in his administration. He wants people that get things done, and that's what mayors do. We're about making sure that we're using the resources that we have as mayors in the most effective and efficient way, using innovation to lead and strengthen our communities. So I want to thank all of you for giving me the opportunity to be in leadership of this organization as we, I believe, lead our country in providing services for our constituents. Thank you so much. I'll turn it back over to Kevin.
Thank you, Mayor. At this point in time, I'd like to bring up the great mayor of Columbus, Ohio, Mayor Michael Coleman. And he has a unique position because he's been in a battleground state. He's learned how to work across the aisles, maybe better than any of us. His city is home of a number of Fortune 500 corporations, and he understands that mix of what real public-private partnerships look like. Mayor Coleman.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you, President Johnson, and look forward to working with you and all the mayors on the agenda that I think is the agenda for America and for our cities. This is the U.S. Metro Economies report. And this U.S. Conference of Mayors has done this report for the past 12 years. And it's important to us because what it does is give us an indication of how our cities are doing and, in fact, how our country is doing. And so to pick up on what SRB said earlier, is that by 2020, this report shows that the metropolitan economies will account for 92% of the nation's real economic growth and 94% of our population growth. That's an awesome thing. And what it also reflects is that we're turning the corner on this recovery. In fact, 93% of the U.S. city metros will experience growing economies, and that's up from 91%. And momentum is gaining for next year as well. And so what this all means now is that 60% of our metro economies have regained their lost jobs by 2015. We went through a really tough recession over the past several years, and we're coming back. And now most of our cities by 2016 will have unemployment rates below 6%, and that's important. So we're turning a corner, we're showing growth. But what this really suggests is how strong our economies are, local economies are, and how it drives our national economy. And so local growth, our metropolitan economies means everything when it comes to our national economy.
Awesome. Thank you. So before I open it up to questions, let me give you a little bit more of what's happening this weekend. Certainly we're going to be hosted and have a fun 4 days. In fact, probably some of the most unbelievable 4 days that we'll experience over the course of the year. And we'll be talking about a pro-growth agenda. Our discussion, though, will be based on tried and true experience, not esoteric exchanges. The meetings will be about exchanging of ideas, recognizing the truly strong impact that mayors are having and doing in their respective cities. As I mentioned earlier, climate protection, energy efficiency, livability, early childhood. Those are some of the discussions that will be taking place. In this meeting, we will also be debating and voting on resolutions around Common Core standards, infrastructure, minimum wage. Some of the cities will be receiving monetary awards for making major strides in the areas of climate protection, greenhouse gas reduction at the local level. We'll also be announcing some very important partnerships with our private companies that want to help us better the communities in which they do business in. On Sunday, if you look up here at the diversity, you can't make this up. This is the diversity of our country, and this is what mayors represent. On Sunday, Maria Shriver will be here talking about women's issues and talking about how we eradicate the economic disparities that are felt by different populations. On Monday, we'll have a topic and a panel discussion on race, politics, and sports led by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So you're going to see an example where we as mayors weigh in and help shape an agenda in this country. We care about our constituents, whether they're in our city borders, whether they're in the clusters in our regions, whether they're up and down our states, whether they're around the country. We believe we have a responsibility to truly get things done. So as you can see, we're tackling tough issues without a lot of help from Washington. Don't get me wrong, we do want to work with our nation's leaders in Washington, but we won't wait and we can't. And the Metro Economies report here shows that we haven't. So without any further ado, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to address them. If not, I'm going to bring up some of the incredible teammates I have here to weigh in as well. Yes, sir.
Mayor, you mentioned climate change as one of your top 5 topics. Can you really address that adequately without a clear national policy?
Absolutely. I'm going to bring up Mayor Finch. This is our leader on this particular topic. And what's great is we have a lot of captains. We're all on everybody's team. But Mayor Finch and the work he's doing in his city has been unbelievable. And he's been a leader, not just for this organization, but in relation to the White House and working in a very bipartisan way.
Thank you, President Johnson. Thanks for the question. What you see before you are people that are building anaerobic digesters to get their sewage plants to not use fossil fuels. You see people who are changing out all their street lights to use LEDs. You see people that are building complete streets, building new parks, taking it on the almost seemingly insurmountable chore of fighting climate change. But we're doing it. My city reduced greenhouse gases since I took office by 5%. It's something we all brag about. Under President Johnson's leadership, we're going to be trying to give everybody a uniform way to measure that and report it back to you, so we can have a president boasting next time he's at the microphone that all of our projects, whether they were liquefied natural gas vehicles in Indianapolis and in Bridgeport, or they were all the other methods that we're using, actually amounted to something. And we can give you, as we move forward under President Johnson's leadership, even more information.
A clearer policy from Washington?
Well, under President Obama, we recently just got a big boost. The carbon, treating carbon as a pollutant, which we all know is, we deal with it every day. We deal with asthma in our communities. We deal with rising waters that are affecting some of the poorest people in the United States. And thanks to the President and Administrator McCarthy, who's going to be here, who I'm very proud of. She's from Connecticut, and she's a voice of reason, and would look forward to working with you more on this issue as we move forward.
I'll just make one simple comment as well. You know, we talk about President Obama because he's the chief executive officer of this country right now. And last night, we were hosted by Mayor Rawlings at the Bush Presidential Library. So what you have is a Democrat and a Republican. And one of my comments last night that I made is that President Bush and 41, so 41 and 43, they demonstrate the civility of how electeds and presidents should behave. You have not seen President Bush one time criticize this administration. And the reason why I make that point is because we have to work together in bipartisan ways across lines. So just because we have a Democratic president, Republicans up here are not saying we want to shy away from it, we want to tank it, we don't want it to be successful. So we get a chance as mayors to weigh in to make sure we're shaping policy and we're coming up with clear goals and objectives and benchmarks that we feel we can measure ourselves against across party lines. And that's something I'm really proud of in terms of mayors really leading the way. Yes.
Thank you for that comment, because if you look at this current administration, in terms of who has cabinet positions, they're both Democrats and Republicans. Now, in terms of cabinet, there's about to be a mayor who happens to be from Texas, who's about to be head of HUD. So I don't see that appointment going south. I think that will go forward. As mayors, do all of you here and anybody else in the audience, do you see this a great benefit? Because I like to remind people that HUD is not just about housing, it's about urban development, which is what it stands for. Whereas the current member of HUD, who I know is an okay guy, and I think he'll be very good in his new position, I think that this new member of HUD, he's a mayor. So can you see yourselves taking advantage of having a gentleman who's now a current mayor being HUD, and what can that do to help you as mayors of your wonderful city?
You know who Pharrell is? Do you know who Pharrell is? Y'all know who Pharrell is? What's the name of his song? Happy. We're happy. We're just happy right now. So if you,
That's good. That's good.
we really are. I mean, your first comment is we had Ray LaHood, the head of transportation, a Republican. We as Democrats and Republicans loved him because he was about results and making a difference in our communities. Number one, we couldn't be happier that when he moved on, a mayor, one of our colleagues, becomes a secretary, Anthony Fox, of transportation. That was great news. News just got a little bit better for us because one of our very own from Texas, Julian Castro, is going to run HUD. He understands the intimacy of that firsthand of what it takes to create promised neighborhoods around housing and economic development, about access going across the board. So we are very excited, and honestly, we think it's because of the work that we've been doing. That if you want to get something done in Washington, why not pick somebody who knows how to get things done and bring them to Washington? And that's what I think we've done. I would love Mayor Kautz, a former past president, and Mayor Nutter maybe to address that if you like. Yeah.
The issue of having a mayor as a cabinet member really is someone who is intimately aware of what goes on a local level. Not only is that mayor and that person intimately aware of all of the issues, but now can address it from how to get things done rather than ideology. And that's the value And that's the benefit of having someone who has been on the ground floor, working directly at moments of truth, if you will, with people, their constituents, and really experiencing what's going on in the neighborhoods and saying, here are the things that we need to do, rather than looking at some statistics where it has no correlation to real life experience. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I would add to it is that, of course, we're excited about Secretary Fox and hopefully soon to be Secretary Castro. But I think the credit obviously goes to President Obama. One, trying to get stuff done, working with, at times, an uncooperative partner over on the other side in terms of the legislative body. So the gentleman asked about climate change or what can we do. We have to get stuff done. We have to make things happen. It'd be great if the federal government, all of it, was working in partnership together to help support some of those efforts. But again, as Mayor Finch said, the President, in that regard, is still taking action on climate change in a variety of areas. He talked earlier, I guess this year, about having a phone and a pen. He's using both of them very, very well and understands that work happens on the ground. We will drive a national climate change policy from the ground up and help Washington do its job. And so, you know, things happen in our cities, in our metro areas. It's about public safety. It's about education. It's a focus on those who have been left out, locked out, or at times locked up and are trying to reenter society. So, yes, we are our brother's keeper. We're making things happen on the ground in cities all across the United States of America. We can't wait for other folks who want to make speeches. We need to make stuff happen. Thanks.
All right, we'll take one last question. Yes.
As metro economies continue to grow and jobs are being created, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges, labor-related and economically related for metro economies?
Any mayor want to? Any mayor? Does anybody else want to address it though?
Hit it, but you know it as well as anybody. This is President Johnson's box. He passed it to me, but I'm going to pass it right back to him. But we believe, and I think all of us believe, is making sure our workforce is ready for the jobs of the future and the present. So it's education from the earliest point in time, from pre-K all the way through high school and beyond, and getting people ready for those jobs that we're creating. And it's important that as we think about creating jobs in our communities, we also think about sharing the success of the recovery to those who are not experiencing it today. And the key is education, and the key is training and skills development. All right. Go ahead.
So I think, again, that we all believe at the end of the day that you cannot have a great city without great public schools. And that's all of our commitment. And over the last 4 or 5 years, mayors have gotten even more engaged in the public education in their cities. Mayor Rawlings in Dallas, every mayor up here is a part of a mayor's leadership involvement, a spectrum of involvement. And we believe very strongly that as a country, we're losing our competitive edge. And if we're going to turn that around, it has to start with our next generation, which is our children. It's early childhood, it's K through 12, it's workforce, it's career pathways. Right now in this country, you're going to have 124 million jobs that are going to require some sort of high skill requirement. And unfortunately, our country is in a position where we're only going to be able to fill 50 million of those 120 million jobs. That means 70 million jobs are going to be filled by folks in China and India. That is not the country we believe in. And in a bipartisan way, that's why we're going to make this workforce dynamic a very strong priority going forward. So again, to all you mayors, thank you so much. To the press who's come out, thank you. And to Mayor Rawlings, we love you. Thank you.